Edward Hale always thought betrayal would feel loud. Shouting slammed doors, shattered glass. Instead, it felt like a quiet room with warm lamps and the slow realization that the air had been poisoned hours ago. It was late evening in Brooklyn, the kind where some refuse to let go. The city hummed softly outside the apartment windows. Sirens far away, laughter drifting up from the street, the smell of burned sugar and hot asphalt. Edward stood barefoot in the kitchen, staring at his phone like it had personally offended him. Lisa's message sat unread for 3 minutes. He finally tapped it. "We need to talk." 4 words. Polite. Surgical. Edward laughed under his breath. "Of course we do," he said to the empty room. Lisa always did things neatly. Even emotional disasters came well packaged. They had been together for 7 years, long enough to stop counting anniversaries, long enough to share passwords and inside jokes that no longer needed punchlines. She was a documentary photographer. He wrote investigative pieces for a digital magazine that barely paid rent but fed his ego. Truth was their shared religion, or so he thought. The door opened at exactly 9:12 p.m. Lisa stepped in, camera bag hanging from her shoulder like a familiar ghost. Her hair smelled of cigarette smoke and rain. She didn't kiss him. That's when Edward knew. "Hey," she said, carefully neutral. "Hey," he replied, equally cautious. "Do you want wine or are we skipping performance?" She winced. "Can you not do that?" "Not do what?" "Turn everything into a defense mechanism." Edward smiled thinly. "Lisa, I'm a journalist. Defense mechanisms are my love language." She put the bag down slowly like it might explode. "There's something you need to know." "About the affair?" he asked gently. The silence stretched. A subway roared underneath them, shaking the glasses in the cupboard. Lisa's eyes widened. You know, I write about corruption for a living," Edward said. "I recognize patterns." She sat down, suddenly smaller. It wasn't supposed to happen. "It never is. It just," he understood me. Edward nodded. "They always do." She flinched. "You're being cruel." "No," he said quietly. "I'm being calm. Cruel comes later." Lisa swallowed. "I didn't plan to fall in love." That word landed heavier than the rest. Edward leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Who is he?" She hesitated. Edward laughed again, this time sharp. "Lisa, if this is the part where you protect him, I swear to God." "It's Mark." The name rang through the room like broken glass. Mark, Edward's editor. His mentor. The man who once told him, "I see myself in you." Edward felt something inside him go cold and incredibly focused. "How long?" he asked. "A year." "A year," he repeated. "So when my articles started getting buried." Lisa's voice cracked. "Edward." "You fed him my work," Edward said, the pieces clicking into place. "My sources. My drafts. I didn't mean to hurt you." He finally raised his voice. "You let him steal my investigations. You let him publish them under his name." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I thought it would protect you." "From what?" She looked away. Edward stared at her, really stared, and saw something new beneath the guilt. Fear. "What did you do, Lisa?" She whispered. "Mark's involved in something illegal. Corporate money. Politicians. I photographed things I shouldn't have." Edward's pulse quickened. "And you gave him my research to cover his tracks." "I was trying to keep us alive." A bitter smile touched Edward's lips. "Funny, I was doing the same thing." She looked up sharply. "What?" Edward reached into his pocket and placed his phone on the table, sliding it toward her. "Meetings, emails, bank transfers," he said calmly. "I knew Mark was dirty 6 months ago." Lisa's breath hitched. "Then why?" "I needed proof," Edward said. "And leverage." Her face drained of color. "You used me." "I trusted you," he corrected. "You betrayed me." Silence wrapped around them, thick and heavy. "Did you ever love me?" she asked softly. Edward hesitated. Just for a moment. "Yes," he said. "That's why this hurts." Police sirens grew louder outside. Too close. Lisa stood abruptly. "You called them?" Edward shook his head. No. A knock came at the door. Firm. Professional. Lisa backed away. Edward. The door opened before either of them moved. Mark stood there, smiling too easily. Evening, he said. We need to talk. Two officers stepped in behind him. Mark looked at Edward. You've been digging where you shouldn't. Edward met his gaze. Funny. That's exactly what I was going to say. Mark turned to Lisa. You told him? Her silence was answer enough. Mark sighed. This could have ended cleanly. Edward reached into his pocket again. The room froze. He placed a small recorder on the table and pressed play. Mark's voice filled the apartment. Confessions, bribes, threats, everything. The officers stiffened. Mark's smile died. Edward looked at Lisa. You see, the real betrayal wasn't the affair. Lisa's eyes filled with horror. It was thinking I wouldn't see it coming. The officers moved fast. As Mark was handcuffed, he locked eyes with Edward. You think you won? Edward leaned closer. No, I think I survived. Later, after the apartment emptied and the city reclaimed its noise, Lisa stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself. What happens now? She asked. Edward picked up his laptop, already typing. Now, he said, voice calm, almost warm, I tell the truth. She nodded slowly. And us? Edward paused. Outside, the city burned with light and possibility. There was a time, he said, when I would have forgiven you. Lisa turned, hope flickering. But that man, Edward continued softly, would have lied to himself. He closed the laptop. The room felt warmer somehow. Lighter. Edward walked past her, opening the door. Take care, Lisa. She watched him leave, realizing too late that betrayal didn't destroy him. It sharpened him. And in America, in the quiet violence of modern truth, that made all the difference.